I want a heart that forgives, a heart full of love, one with compassion just like yours above, one that overcomes evil with goodness and love, like it never happened, never holding a grudge. Want a heart that forgives, that lives and lets live, one that keeps loving over and over again, one that men can offend because your word is within, one that loves without price like you, Lord Jesus Christ. Want a heart that loves everybody, even my enemies. Want to love like you, be like you, just like you did. I want a heart that forgives. Want a heart that forgives when the ones that are closest, that I've known the longest, hurt me the most. I still want to love them just like you love me, even though I'm hurting. I want a heart that forgives when the pain is so deep, it's so hard to speak about it to anyone, just like your son. I give up my right to hold it against them with hatred inside. I want a heart that loves everybody, even my enemies. I want to love like and be like and just like and did. I want to walk like you, talk like, just like you did. Want to be like you, live like you, just like you did. 'Cause a heart that forgives is the heart that will live, totally free from the pain of the past. And the heart that lets go is the heart that will know so much freedom. Lord, I want to let it go. Hey, hallelujah. God, I need to let it go. Lord, it's been holding me back, and I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't want it no more. I don't know exactly what to do to get rid of it, but here I am, Lord Jesus. Here I am, oh, here I am, Lord Jesus. Oh, Lord, I need you, I need you. I know this is me that you're talking to. This is me, this is me, this is me, Lord, this is me. Lord, I let it go. Every person that's ever hurt me, God, I let it go. Every single heart, God, I let it go. Every single pain, God, I let it go. I let it go. I let it go. Lord, you can have it. 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 You can have it now. You can have it now. I don't want it no more.
Good afternoon and welcome to our World Day of Peace celebration here in Atlanta, Georgia. I bring you greetings from Forgive for Health Ministries, Inc. in Stone Mountain, Georgia. We will be joining the rest of the world in this World Day of Peace celebration, where we will stop and lay down arms and join together as sisters and brothers to celebrate peace. Because without peace, there is no unity, there is no love. And so we bring you greetings from Stone Mountain, Georgia, and we look forward to spending the next hours with you as a part of this journey as we celebrate the World Day of Peace. At noon today, we will stop for a moment of silence to celebrate those who have passed on because of COVID-19, wars and rumors of war, and any dispeace that might have caused their demise. And so I'll ask you in a minute to stop with me to celebrate and honor those that have passed along ahead of us as we celebrate this World Day of Peace. So without further ado, I'd like to ask everybody right now to join me in a moment of silence as we join the United Nations in celebrating the World Day of Peace. Can we stop right now to celebrate and honor our brothers and sisters who have passed because of COVID, wars, disunity, etc. Join me in the moment of silence, please. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to kick off our program by moving to the ringing of our peace bell. Without peace, without peace, we will be in constant turmoil. And so what I'd like to do is stop for a minute. We've just celebrated those that have gone ahead, but together, as brothers and sisters across the world, our jobs are to work together for peace and harmony. But I'd like us to start by ringing the peace bell. And so I'll start right now, and then I'll go into our meeting objectives and the rest of our program. So it's my honor today, all the way from Coral Springs, Florida, to ring our peace bell for our ministry. Thank you. As we celebrate peace across the world, it's important to know that we are all partakers of this world, and unless we work together collectively, we will be in this peace forever. Thank you. Now that we have gone over those preliminary things, including moment of silence and ringing of the peace bell, I'd like us to look at our meeting objectives and then go into a moment of silence and prayer, and some music and into a discussion about why we are here today. What I'd like to start by doing is we'll spend some time today with you on Facebook Live, and it will be pre-recorded, of course, or recorded, so it'll be here for you to come back to look at this. But we want to spend time describing the work of Forgive for Health Ministry and how we help to promote forgiveness and peace across the world. We want to celebrate peace and forgiveness by standing against hate with our brothers and sisters across the globe. And we want today to spend time discussing strategies for improving forgiveness, population health, resilience to improve recovery for all people. We want to also articulate the need to spread kindness, compassion, and hope as we work collectively to recover from the pandemic. And last but not least, we hope to share tips to consider for a more equitable and sustainable world. Here's our program for the rest of the day, the time we'll have together. I've just made some remarks. We'll move on to pastoral welcome and prayers. We'll share a United Nations video for the celebration of today. We'll have a musical selection by a psalmist, Famata. And then Pamela Barnes, who's our community service director, will give us an overview of our program. And I will share some brief remarks about why peace, equity, and forgiveness is necessary for an equitable and sustainable world. And last but not least, the linchpin of all of today, which will really get us into a great discussion, is a facilitated panel that will look at the need for sustainability and peace as we work collectively to look at how we can do this as a world. And so without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Pastor Emmanuel Williams, who serves as our pastoral lead here at Forgive for Health Ministries. Pastor Williams is also the visitation pastor at the Tabernacle Church in Decatur, Georgia. And Pastor Williams, at this time, I'd like to turn the virtual mic over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Megan. We welcome all who are participating today in this day of peace, international peace, and we pray that it will be a stimulus to all of us to see the importance and to seek and pursue peace as stated in the Word of God. Let us pray. We give you thanks, O eternal God, for your goodness and kindness to us and the blessing of peace that comes from you. We are reminded that the prophet spoke about the coming of your Son and referred to him and called him the Prince of Peace. And so we look to him as the source and the direction of our pursuit for peace. We pray, Lord, that this day that is set aside to recognize the importance of peace will help to bring to the minds of all participants the importance, the value, and the purpose for which we are gathered. We pray your blessing upon all the participants, and we pray that we may meet and achieve the goals that have been established for this day. For we ask it in the holy and mighty name of the Prince of Peace. Amen and amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Awesome words. I really appreciate you so much. Next, I'd like to run our United Nations World Day of Peace video for all of us to hear. And so if you give me a moment, I will run that video as we hear the United Nations General Secretary, as we hear his comments on peace. Okay. Let's get this video rolling. Sorry, guys, I'm having difficulties finding this. Not certain why.
Inequality and poverty are deepening, and mistrust and division this year's International Day of Peace comes at a crisis. This year's International Day of Peace comes at a crisis point for humanity. COVID-19 has turned our world upside down. Conflicts are spinning out of control, the climate emergency is worsening, inequality and poverty are deepening, and mistrust and division are driving people apart at a time when solidarity and collaboration are needed more than ever. As a human family, we face a stark choice: peace or perpetual peril. We must choose peace. That is why I call for a 24-hour ceasefire today. And by working in solidarity for a lasting, sustainable peace every day, we can tackle the issues facing us. We need peace to urgently deliver life-saving vaccines and treatment for COVID-19. We need peace to recover from the pandemic and rebuild shattered systems and shattered lives. We need peace to level the playing field and reduce inequalities. We need peace to renew trust in one another and faith in facts and science. And we need to make peace with nature, to heal our planet, build a green economy, and achieve our net zero targets. Peace is not a naive dream. It is a light in the darkness, guiding us to the only pathway to a better future for humanity. Let's walk the pathway of peace as if our lives depended on it, because they do. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's so great to hear from our United Nations Secretary and his vision for peace. We'll go back to our video now. Thank you so much. Let's move on. think our next thing on our agenda is our musical selection by our psalmist, Famata Odijo. Famata is a psalmist who works out of the All Nation, or worships at All Nations Christian Fellowship Church in Lawrenceville, Georgia, where her father and mother are pastors. She's of Liberian originality, and has a passion for the Lord, has been singing and bringing people in the presence of the Lord for decades. And I have the distinct pleasure of welcoming Famata to the stage and allowing her to share her musical talent with us and the world. Famata, over to you, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank God for an opportunity to be able to minister today with you all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you, Dr. Sanders, for the opportunity. This song is about forgiveness. This is Alabaster Box, and it talks about this lady pouring out something that was so precious to her because she has experienced forgiveness. And because of that forgiveness, she's able to pour out her love for her master because she has never felt this way before. So we're going to go ahead and worship together. The room grew still as she made her way to Jesus. She stumbled through the tears that made her blind. She felt such pain. Some spoke in anger, heard folks whisper, there's no place here for her kind. Still on she came with the shame that flushed her face, until at last she knelt before his feet. And though she spoke no words, everything she said was heard as she poured her love for the master from her box of alabaster. I've come to pour my praise on him like oil from Mary's alabaster box. Don't be angry if I wash his feet with my tears and I dry them with my hair. You weren't there the night he found me. You did not feel what I felt when he wrapped his loving arms around me. And you don't know the cost of the oil in my alabaster box. I can't forget the way life used to be. I was a prisoner to the sin that had me bound. And I spent my days, poured my life without measure into a little treasure box I thought I'd found. Until the day when Jesus came to me and healed my soul with the wonder of his touch. So now I'm giving back to him all the praise he's worthy of. I've been forgiven, and that's why I love him so much. I've come to pour like oil from Mary's alabaster box. Don't be angry if I wash his feet with my tears and I dry them with my hair. My hair, you were there the night Jesus found me. You did not feel what I felt when you wrapped his loving arms around me. And you don't know the cause. Oh, you don't know the cause of my praise. You don't know the cause of the oil in my alabaster box.
Amen. Thank you, Famata. Awesome. Excellent words. Praise God. May God continue to bless you as you minister to his people. Thank you so much. Well, let's move on in our program. We're going to turn the mic over to Pamela Barnes, who's a Community Services Director at Forgive for Health Ministries. And she's going to give a brief overview of our ministry and what we do as a ministry. So Pam, over to you.
Thank you. And good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for your attendance. The goal of Forgive for Health Ministry is to help to heal all relationships for good. Our vision is for everyone to be able to live free of unforgiveness and all its consequences, and helping people to grow and thrive with a forgiving heart is the mission of the ministry. Our goals consist of integrity, being upstanding in all we do and guided by decency and fairness, honesty, being open and transparent in all our dealings, exemplifying the love and compassion of Christ, respect and listen to everyone, provide high quality service, and to work with excellence as unto Christ, to follow his leadership as we serve. Our program goals include encouraging healthcare providers to assess the forgiveness levels of all patients and refer them to appropriate caring professionals or ministries. We help all individuals to forgive so that they are able to live free from the shackles of unforgiveness. Implement trauma-informed care in African Americans and other minorities so that we all thrive, thereby reducing health disparities. We work to build awareness, the evidence base for addressing religion as a social determinant of health, and to serve as a bridge between faith communities and public health in order to improve population health. And finally, our current services are weekly chat circles, Tea and Forgiveness, or ATF, and for children, ATF Junior. We conduct forgiveness workshops, Restoring Your Heart support group, and of course, our annual Forgiveness, Population Health, and Equity Conference in conjunction with today's World Peace Day celebration. Under clinical services, we provide diabetes, prediabetes, hypertension, and obesity management. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. At this time, I'd like to quickly talk about the importance of why their peace, equity, and forgiveness is necessary for a sustainable and equitable world, I will take a few minutes to do that, and I'll quickly run through a few slides, and then we'll get to the meat of today, which is our facilitated discussion. But I think we needed to do all of what we've done today to set the stage. So let me move on. I think it's clear to say that there's no peace without forgiveness. And this is Archbishop Desmond Tutu's word. He said, without forgiveness, there's no hope. Only forgiveness enables us to restore trust and compassion to our relationship. If peace is our goal, there can be no future without forgiveness. I think it's important for all of us to agree with this. And this sort of really articulates clearly why we do have a World Day of Peace and the connection to forgiveness. But let's talk about what forgiveness is. I think I love the picture here because it really is true. Forgiveness brings peace. But in our practice, forgiveness is the act of deliberately giving up resentment towards an offender while fostering this undeserved quality of beneficence or goodwill and compassion towards the person. And that's a 1996 definition that we still use today. I'd also like to sort of talk a little bit about the connection that forgiveness and peace are connected. I think it's clear that everybody knows that unforgiveness leads to stress and anxiety, bitterness and resentment, and can be the biggest cause of dis-peace in one's life. So we know unforgiveness equals no peace. And it's important for us to understand that we need to decide we choose to forgive, because I think most of us would not want to live in turmoil and dis-peace. And so I wanted to sort of clearly share that today. I also wanted to share some forgiveness data. And this was, ladies and gentlemen, before the pandemic. So I can imagine this is even worse today. But in the 2001 forgiveness study, what we found out of the University of Michigan, that was 60% of Americans reported forgiving themselves for past mistakes. And 75% of Americans said that they felt God had forgiven them. But only 52% of participants said that they'd been able to forgive other people who had hurt them. And 62% of Americans say they need more forgiveness in their daily life. And this is the Fetzer Institute's report of 2010. And so I can only imagine what it is like in 2021. I've still not seen a newly published report. But given all of what we have gone through with this pandemic in these last couple of years, I can imagine this number could be 90%. But I think it's important. We've talked about what forgiveness is. I think it's important for us to realize that forgiveness is not avoidance or letting the offender off without accountability. It is not seeking revenge or harboring ill will, holding on to feelings of hurt, or having a relationship with the transgressor or the person who hurt you. If you do plan to have a relationship, then you're moving into something we call a reconciliation. And that's also a different process. But you start with forgiveness. And last but not least on the slide today is forgiveness is not wishing something bad would happen to the offender. If you're thinking that way, you still have not forgiven them. I wanted to quickly highlight a few benefits of forgiveness. We know that the higher forgiveness scores are related to less fatigue, less insomnia, higher life satisfaction, less depression, fewer physical health symptoms, a reduction in negative affect or feelings, increased self-esteem, peace, and then, of course, a reduced fear of death. So even from the womb to the tomb, there are benefits to forgiveness. But when you are dying, if you are forgiven people, you actually have a reduced fear of death. And that's documented in the literature. But I think it's important for us to know and to try to connect all of this to why we're here today. Our world is in chaos. I think we all would agree. I also think we will agree that many of our problems are connected to inequities and unforgiveness, whether it's the wars, the COVID-19 pandemic and how it's disproportionately affecting people of minority populations or low income, or racial tension, the wars and violence, unemployment, poverty, poor access and to healthcare and lack of medicines, food shortages and climate change, etc. Our world is in chaos. We have never in our lifetime seen anything like what we're experiencing today. But it is important to realize that unforgiveness can become a heavy burden. And like this gentleman carrying the world on his shoulders, we are, most of us, carrying unforgiveness. We carry that because we're in conflict with our brothers and sisters, our co-workers, our family members, our church members, and the list goes on. And to change that and to get to a world that's a peaceful world, we have to try to let go. And so it's important that we realize that unforgiveness can be a very heavy burden, and it's by choice that you carry that if you choose to do so. So I'd like to play a brief video here before we get to the rest of our discussion today.
Did you know when you can't forgive, your emotional wounds can't close and heal? Forgive for Health Ministries, Inc. helps all people to forgive. Our services include support groups, workshops, and conferences, to name only a few. One of our goals is to help you forgive so you can live free from the shackles of unforgiveness. Our values include compassion, love, and honesty. For more information, to donate, and to register for our conference, go to www.forgive4health.org or call 404-500-9204, 404-500-9204. Let Forgive for Health Ministries help to heal all of your relationships for good.
Forgive for Health Ministries is a 501c3 organization.
Thank you. This is a brief ad about our ministry.
Did you know?
Thank you so much. At this time, we'd like to move on in our program to our 2021 facilitated panel discussion. And we have assembled a distinct group of subject matter experts from across the country. But before we do that, I'd like to see if we have any thoughts about what we've heard so far from the panelists. And love to have a discussion before we jump into the actual discussion today. And so I'd like to get from Noella any thoughts you might have from what you've heard, or anybody else on the phone online today. So let's have a quick discussion. We're waiting for one more member to join us. So what are your thoughts about what you've seen from the video from the United Nations, to the brief sharing that I've just done, to Pam's overview? Are there questions from anybody? Or comments, if they're not questions? And if you're speaking, I can't hear you. LaQuisha, were you saying something?
Well, I'd just like to add, before we get started in the panel discussion, that all of the points are so relevant in regards to how unforgiveness is tied to so many health issues that we experience. And while it is hard for a lot of people to let go, it is really a matter of life and death when you consider the health risks that are associated with unforgiveness.
Thank you, LaQuisha. I agree with you. Any other comments from the audience, from the panelists? Welcome, Teresa. Teresa, let me hear you, if she has mic privilege yet. Teresa? While I wait for Teresa, I'd like to start with we are now at the stage to have a facilitated panel discussion. So I'd like to start by introducing our panelists. Our first panelist was our last speaker, LaQuisha Agnew. LaQuisha is an educator, coach, and speaker who works with adults seeking to improve life skills and to obtain a higher level of personal and professional development. LaQuisha believes that people should live, thrive, grow, which simply encourage people to live life with purpose, thrive, not just survive, and grow towards their greatest potential. LaQuisha has a passion for serving the community and loves giving her support to worthy causes and programs. LaQuisha has 18 years of combined experience in education and social services. She's a certified professional coach and holds a BS in Human Services Management from the University of Phoenix, as well as a master's degree in adult education and training. She's the founder of Agnew Training and Development Agency. So LaQuisha, thank you so much for joining us today. You are so talented and a wonderful speaker. I've heard you speak before. And so I really am looking forward to hearing your feedback and your input on the topics that we will discuss today as we talk about how to get to a more sustainable and equitable world. Our next speaker is Noella Wiggins, and Noella is coming to us all the way from to us all the way from Portland, Oregon. Noella is a principal at Wiggins Health Consulting LLC and a member of the leadership team for the Community Health Workers Common Indicators Project. While working in El Salvador in the 1980s, Noella learned about community health workers. CHWs are trusted community members who promote health in their own communities. She's also learned about popular or people education, a liberating approach educates education and organizing that is based on the wisdom that exists in community. For more than 30 years, she's had the pleasure and honor to work with CHW and use popular education to eliminate inequalities in health, education, and social status. Noelle has a BA in history and an MS in public health and a doctoral degree in educational leadership. Noelle, welcome. Our final panelist is Teresa Campos Dominiquez. She is an immigrant Latin woman born in Mexico. She's a mother of 3 children and 5 grandchildren. Ms. Campos is a community health worker for the Public Health Division of the Monomah Country Health Department in Portland, County Health Department in Portland, Oregon. Ms. Campos is a certified NIA instructor, yoga and trauma-informed brain-sensitive teacher, and social justice and yoga therapy certified teacher. She uses those skills to bring healing and tools to community members and groups to support and bring individuals and community healing and empowerment. She's a founder and member of the Natural Leaders, a group of community members who live in a neighborhood who assist and support people affected by COVID-19 when organizations and medical systems get paralyzed and are not able to respond to our Latinx communities. We have been outside face-to-face bringing resources back for community members. And I know personally, I've met Teresa personally, and she is maybe one of the biggest advocates for equity that I know. Beautiful person. I wish I could get her to do some of her wonderful things that she does in other meetings that I've seen her perform at. But I can only say that you both, all 3 of you ladies, I see it's a ladies heavy panel discussion. And we did not mean to exclude the men, but unfortunately, Pastor had to leave and we've had some other issues. So I really want to thank each of you, Teresa, Noelle, and LaQuisha, for joining us today. We'll spend the rest of our time today talking through some questions that I'll pose to each of you. We'll hear at the end a short video clip from our kids of the RT and Forgiveness group. And hopefully we'll have others join us as we dialogue about this, the message of World Day of Peace and how to get to a more equitable and sustainable world. Are you ladies ready? Let me see a head nod, a fingers, thumbs up. So I'd like to move on in this facilitated discussion by posing a question to each of you. These are your wonderful pictures, and I'm happy to have you here today. I'd like to start by asking, I'll start with you, LaQuisha. I'd like you to share with me, what is your vision for an equitable and sustainable world? I'd say maybe let's do about 2 minutes each, and then we'll come back around if we need to. But let's get us started, LaQuisha. What is your thinking about this question?
Well, thank you again, Dr. Sanders, for inviting me and allowing me to be a part of this wonderful program. And in terms of my vision for an equitable and sustainable world, I believe our world has gotten to a cold place of tolerance. And we know that tolerance is merely just tolerating others' behaviors, opinions that we don't necessarily agree with. And for example, that means that we have a cold mentality of, mind your own business, our mind, as long as I don't have to do what you want, I'm fine. And I'd like to see our world move from that cold state of tolerance to acceptance, that we just are not coexisting, but we are actually working together, and that we are moving past things that hinder us from being part of the global human race.
Thank you so much. Well said. I like the idea of this cold place because I really think that's where we are, LaQuisha. Wonderful word, a cold place of tolerance. Thank you for that. Noel, what is your vision and how can you add to what LaQuisha has just posed or said to us?
Thank you, Dr. Saunders. And I also want to thank you so much for inviting me to be here today. It's a real honor to join you all. And I think my vision for an equitable and sustainable world is first a world in which, as Dr. Saunders has already mentioned, we truly realize that each of us individually is better off when we're all better off collectively, both in a spiritual way and also in a very concrete and objective way. I mean, for example, research shows that in societies where there's less inequity, everyone is healthier, including those with the most power and privilege. I think it's a world where we realize that there's enough power to go around, and where those of us who, because of our race or our education or some other factor, have surplus power that keeps us isolated and maintains inequity, where we continuously work to give that power and privilege up. And I'll stop there.
Thank you, Noella. I like the concept of, most people won't even think about it, that power does keep people isolated. And so how do we share that power? And I think we'll maybe dive deeper into that later on. Thank you so much for your comments. And Teresa, I would love to hear what your thoughts are or your vision for an equitable and sustainable world. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation. And my vision is a world of love and kindness and compassion. Also, I would like to see human liberation. And faith beliefs can be aligned with the behaviors. And restoration versus Spanish. That will be my vision.
Thank you. So I hear human liberation. Thank you. As you've listened to each other, I wanted to sort of cycle back. Are there any additional thoughts that you'd like to add, LaQuisha, Noel, or even Teresa, based on what you've just heard before we move on from here?
Yes, I totally agree with human liberation, because when we are able to truly experience freedom and liberation, then we can get to the business of everything that we need to do in this world. It's unforgiveness and that binds us and it keeps us from moving forward. So if we can have that liberation and in all areas of our lives, I truly think that the vision can be fulfilled.
Thank you so much. Noel, any final thoughts? Or even Teresa, you're free to chime back in.
So I've loved what everyone else had said, and I also wanted to share a passage from a book that I'm reading that I'm finding to be very moving, called Radical Friendship. And in that book, the author quotes a short story by Alexis Pauline Gumbs. And in that story, Gumbs shares her vision for an equitable world. And she says, and I'm quoting here, "Everybody eats. Everybody knows how to grow agriculturally, spiritually, physically, and intellectually. We are more patient than we have ever been. And now that our time is divine and connected with everything, we have developed skills for how to recenter ourselves. Wow. We walk, we drink tea, we are still when we need to be. No one is impatient with someone else's stillness. No one feels guilty for sitting still. Everybody is always learning to grow."
Wow, very profound word and a really great way to summarize this. I think we need to capture that essence of that quote, because I think it would be something I'd love to put on my wall for this year and keep us focused. And as we continue to be patient with each other and everybody continues to learn and to grow. Thank you so much. I think it's time to move on to the next question, if you're ready. So here is our next question. Of course, we would not be able to do this without including coronavirus, because that is why some of us are home today and or unemployed, etc. So here's a question I'd like to pose to you guys. COVID-19, or given COVID-19, the racial tension, climate changes, and the upheavals we have had, etc. What do you need to advance equity and sustainability in your world, it should say? What do you need in your side of the world to advance equity and sustainability? Back to the UN theme that we are starting with. We want to advance equity and sustainability in our world. What do you need? And Teresa, I ended with you the last time, so I'd like to start with you now. Given all of what you've seen, you've been out on the front line with CHWs, helping to advance health equity. What do you need to advance equity and sustainability in our world? Do you think we need to do that in our world? Teresa, love to hear from you.
First, we need to bring the basic need to communities that they need. If they need food, we need to bring food. Or if it's health, we need to bring health in order to supply what is needed. And empower, not just empower themselves to be able to analyze their situation and get their find their causes of the situation and find their solution. But first, we had to bring the resources. Second, we had to build relationships, because if we don't build relationship, if you don't invest in building relationship, it's no way that we can do friendly, a compassionate world. Yep. Because everything is based on power and other resources. But building relationship allow us to really bring and really create those healing process, so we can be able to feel and trust and be able to share our fears, our happiness, or our concerns.
Wow, thank you, Teresa. I like the idea. Of course, Maslow had that hierarchy. It's nothing new. Let's meet those basic needs. And then let's talk about helping them to, it's like teaching a man to fish and helping them to develop that, building that community capital. And then I love it, build relationships so we can start this healing process. And we have to invest in it, because relationships don't happen because by osmosis. So your comments to me are spot on, and I really appreciate your articulating that so well. Thank you so much, Teresa. Noella, what about you? What are your thoughts about what we might need, or what you might need in your side of the world to sort of move this forward?
So thank you so much again, Dr. Saunders, for that question. And I think I'm just going to build on what Teresa was saying about relationships, because I think in order to advance equity and sustainability in our world, what I most need is family, and I need friends who are family. I need the kind of radical friendships that the author Kate Johnson talks about in her book. I need a community of friends that crosses race and class and gender identity and many more axes of diversity. I need friends who are committed to staying in relationships and working together for justice, even when it's hard, which it often is. And I need friends and family with whom I can laugh and cry and celebrate. Really, the only way that I can imagine staying hopeful in the midst of so many challenges is in the context of this kind of community.
Wow. Thank you. It's all about relationships. And we don't care where they come from, especially if we're together. And I think it's said, a church divided cannot, or a family divided cannot stand, a world divided cannot stand. And I think some of what we're seeing is a result of that division, as the UN secretary said. And so how can we build back those bridges, or be the bridge because you or I might just have to be that bridge into the community. And for us, Noella from Forgive for Health Ministries, we continue to support all races, all people. And we are even so happy you found us and came to our conference. The rest of is history. And here today, a year later, you're working with us. And so we see no color. We just love God's people, and we're excited and totally agree with your comments of that need for relationships and family and friends. So thank you so much, Noel. Appreciate that. And I love it all across the axes of diversity. I'm just recoding you, but just had to do that. Thank you. Dr. Miss LaQuisha, what are your thoughts about what we need? And I'd love for you, if you don't mind, to take it from various perspectives, from the ladies or the feminine perspective to the African-American, I don't care where. Bring that home for us about what do we need to sort of move this forward from your point of view? Thank you.
Certainly, thank you. I was always taught that who I am and what I have is a result of my ancestors and those who've come before me, pouring into me, praying for me. And so very young, I learned the importance of reaching out to others and serving others. And in doing so, it helps me to live and thrive and grow, which has become my business philosophy, because just as it was said, if you analyze your situation, and you know and find what your life's purpose is, and you walk in that, then you are able to thrive and not just go through this world just surviving, just existing. When you're operating in your purpose, you are able to thrive. And if you are thriving, then you're constantly growing. We can't grow sitting still. We can't grow in the comfort zone. And sometimes growth hurts. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. There's a lot of change associated with growth, but it's necessary. And for example, at first, I actually did not want to take the vaccination. But I had to release that selfish agenda that I had. And when I considered that my interaction with someone else might be the cause of their becoming ill or they possibly dying because I was unvaccinated, I had to let go of any selfish thoughts that I may have had. And this is not to negate someone else's rights who feel that they shouldn't be vaccinated. But I know personally for myself that I didn't want to have the burden on my soul to deal with what if, or what would possibly happen as a result of my actions. And again, that goes into what I've learned all my life, is that there's accountability. And we have to have accountability for our actions and for the decisions that we make, and not let a decision that we make hinder the state of our soul with our Creator. And let not decisions that we make collectively hinder others from being the best that they can be as well, and for them being as healthy as they can be as well. And so again, to the point that the other ladies have made, it's about recognizing relationships and building those relationships. And when you're willing to do that, you see that there's a bigger picture beyond yourself.
Thank you so much. I mean, you've just built on each other's comment. There's comments always, of course, are spot on. And I really thank you, LaQuisha, reaching out and serving and reducing that selfish agenda and increasing accountability for your actions. Because as you said, in your soul, you don't want to be a sort of a stumbling block or a millstone around somebody. Actually, I think that's also biblical. The Bible clearly tells us not to do that. And so you're spot on with your comments, and I so much appreciate each of your thoughts about this. And so I'd like I did the last time, I'd like to ask of you if you have any additional commentary or thoughts about what you've heard from each other, so we can build on this conversation. Or I'd like to ask if there's anybody listening if they have any other comments. You can put it in the chat or let me know. But let's start. Terry or Noel, did you have anything else to add after LaQuisha has spoken? Or do you have additional thoughts you'd like to share?
I just wanted to share that this is another pandemic, because when we talk about climate change, it's nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody knows, but nobody wants to talk about it. So for me, that's essential to build relationships. Until we build that, we were able to talk about fear, because that is what it is, and without judgment. So building those relationships, we can talk about climate change, we can talk about vaccine, we can talk about any issue, but without that relationship, without that basic, it's not going to happen. We just want to be reacting one to each other.
Good point, Terry. Thank you. Anything else, Noel, from you about, okay. Agnew, any other final thoughts on this question?
Yes, Teresa made a perfect point that, no one wants to talk about climate change, and we can talk about building relations with our brothers and our sisters who are human, but we also need to build a better relationship with nature, and we need to take care of our planet. And the reason why the weather and there's so many natural disasters happening and the weather is so volatile is because we haven't maintained a good relationship with Mother Earth. And, that's part of the relationship building as well, that we need to have a better relationship with our planet and take care of it, just as we would take care of our family. And that's going to help sustain our world as well.
Thank you so much. I totally hear you, and I agree with you completely. I think, again, one of the comments you made, I think it was about selfish agendas, is really what's behind the climate changes and the issues we are facing, because we think about nothing but ourselves, or me too and my two and no more. And we are unaware that we are each other's keepers, and that what we do, whether we're in Stone Mountain or Coral Springs or Zimbabwe, affects each other. We just seem to have these 192 or whatever numbers of nations, and we feel to think that what we do within that border is only our concern. And we have sort of not figured out that this global issue is that we're each other's keeper, you're your brother's keeper, we are part of this humanity. And our job, as it was in the day of creation, was to take care of the earth. And you're right, we haven't done a good job. We have the Arctic melting, we have wildfires and this whole upheaval. And what I think this is calling us to do is taking some action before it's too late. And our kids are struggling with even worse things, because with climate changes, so there's famine and droughts, and it has so many implications that most people won't stop to think about it. They don't want that for themselves. But so I think we need to get to that space that we're thinking more out of us, outwards and external, and realize that we're all in this together. And if we do our part here, the end result will be better for us and our grandchildren and our children's children in the future. And so we have to think long term. I think that's actually in one of our slides. So thank you for that. It's a great way to wrap this up. Let's move on to the next question. I'd like to look at challenges. I think everybody knows this has been the most challenging time. I'll be 61 in a few more weeks. It has been one of the most challenging time I've been through. And I have faced so much things that's unbelievable, but I cannot think of a time where this whole world was in uproar in the 60 years. So what I'd like us to focus our next couple of minutes on, our sort of portion of this time, is on challenges. I'd like us to look at what kind of challenges, or to discuss, that you have in your community faced during the pandemic. And I'd like to hear about how you have dealt with these as a group, and maybe what you need to continue it, because the pandemic is not over. And so it might have been, So I'd like first, Noel, to start with you and talk a little bit about the challenges that you have faced. And it could be in a personal, professional, it could be a family issue. You could take it from whatever level, because we respect you, we brought you in as an expert, and we want to hear from all your different perspectives. So why don't you kick us off in this space?
Thank you, Dr. Saunders. So You're right. When I think about my community, I actually think about many different groups. I think about my community of committed family and friends. And those family and friends have faced a really wide variety of challenges during this time, including job loss and despair and isolation and death from both disease and from violence. My community also includes community health workers and community health workers who are family, like my sister Teresa, who are very brave and audacious people who promote health in their own communities. And community health workers have faced many challenges, including working very long hours for very little pay, often with little or no recognition. And they've risked their own health and safety to help others. The needs in their communities have been so great that it's been almost impossible for them to take a break or to take care of themselves. And the way that I've seen community health workers deal with these challenges, and I've learned a lot from watching this, is by coming together on Zoom if they have to celebrate and laugh and cry. And for example, I was very moved when I saw my colleague Teresa and her son Jairo recreate on Zoom the traditional Latinx celebration of Las Posadas, which is a reenactment of Mary and Joseph's search for shelter just before Jesus was born. And I think the commitment to being here for one another in whatever way we can and in whatever way we all need has really been one of the most effective ways that I've seen for dealing with all these challenges.
Thank you so much, Noelle. Really thought-provoking. I appreciate that as well. Teresa, what about you?
For me, the challenges that we face a lot was the lack of accessing to health resources for my community, which is huge. Most of my community, majority of my community doesn't have insurance and no access to the health services. Fear of immigration, because any health that comes, it can be affecting them. And even things changes, the fear is still there because somebody bring the fear to the present moment, and that is really stuck in we embody those emotions, and we act with having those in our bodies, in our minds. Also, no accessing the right information, the correct information. It's not just the translation of language, it's the translation of community. And it's different when the government or organization bring the information to community, when community really review the information and adapt it and really choose the language that is more appropriate for them, and they are the ones who share. And I think that was one of the huge challenges. Lack of the cultural services when they offer food. People don't eat that kind of food. People eat tortillas or eat another kind of food. So adapting those and teaching, you have to teach systems. So that's challenging because you have to do more work than that you're supposed to do. Not just attending the community, but attending systems that they don't know how to interact with communities. And that's a huge. And the Natural Leader is a community group that was grow up to respond the need, but they don't have any pay. They are very active for more than a year and a half. They are having vaccine clinics. They go to the different places to register people when people were not able to register by online. They were able to do in their own phones. So they had to use their own phone, their own data, and they don't receive any pay. That's a huge one. That's all. Some of the challenges that we face a lot.
Thank you, Teresa. It is so sad that in the world's richest nation, we still have people without access to care and proper insurance. And I'm not certain what we will need to do or what it will take for people to understand that if one person is unhealthy, all of us are unhealthy. And so we have to do, with the money we spend for healthcare in this country, it is alarming that there are people still that cannot access care. They're sick, and then somebody has to pay for them to get to the clinic, to get a vaccination, or whatever it is that we need for them to take care of themselves. It's like a nightmare that we spend so much money and we still cannot make sure that all Americans have access to care, that there's access to equal and equitable services, because that's still a problem. You can have access to care and you're treated differently, which we know that's happened. We've seen that documented in the system. And so it is unclear what as a group we'll have to do to get natural leaders and other similar groups in the country who are investing their own money to help care of the Latinx community or the African American community. What do we need to do? I think what we have been doing hasn't worked. And if we continue to do the same thing, it's something I've heard that is called insanity. And so I think it's time to turn this upside down and maybe take a bottom-up approach. And I think one of the things we'll definitely need to do is encourage all of the communities that we're representing to advocate, to reach out to their policymakers, because the time for change is now. We can't have any more debts. And it is unfair that we should have any part of America dealing with this as today, where we have so much money. And so I am passionate for this, so I won't get on that soapbox, as you all obviously know. And so thank you, Teresa, for the natural leaders and what you're doing. Let's continue to advocate for those changes. Thank you. Famata, I see you've popped up on the screen. Do you have any comments or questions for the panelists?
No, not at the moment.
Thank you. All right, LaQuisha, let's hear from you about challenges that you have seen or heard in your community and how that has been dealt with by your group.
Thank you. When we talked about different communities that we're a part of, I recognize that I'm a part of several communities. I'm a part of a community of mothers who, weep when we hear about our children being taken down by violence. I'm a part of a Toastmasters community where we come together with speakers and people from around the world and talk about speeches. And one of my Toastmasters colleague, Gordon, who was supposed to be here this morning, he shared that the challenges that he faced within the Asian community in terms of what's happening in the pandemic and the shock and the alarm at the increase of hate crimes directed toward the Asian community, hatred that stems from blame and miseducation and misleading issues associated with COVID-19 and how it impacted him. And we really wanted to make sure that we embraced him and that we supported him. He shared about his son being fearful of going to school and or participating in Boy Scout activities because of fear of discrimination. And thankfully, he did encourage his son to participate. And as a result of that, he was accepted widely amongst his Boy Scout peers and he made new friends. But we know that unfortunately, that is an isolated incident that hasn't become the norm yet. And Gordon has joined the Atlanta rally against anti-Asian hate, and he has supported that cause because there's no room for racism and there's no room for division. And when we see, even in the African American community, when we suffer and we see so much violence and discrimination about how we're treated in healthcare circles and then in society, that doesn't stop us from embracing our Asian brothers and sisters who experience the same, or our Latino brothers and sisters that experience the same, that we have to get to a place in our community. And I heard one of the ladies say that as women, we embody emotions, and there's so much emotions around, making sure that we are decent toward each other. We are decent toward each other. And that is a challenge. That's a challenge for others to be decent. And it's sad. It is very unfortunate that it's hard for us to have, in some circles that we may frequent, it's hard to have civil discussion. But there's such a need for that because, you know, even though our opinions and our values may not be the majority in a certain circle, that doesn't mean that the differences are bad. That, you know, it just means that there's a greater opportunity to learn from each other's differences, and that we have to better embrace those differences so that we can move through the challenges that we see.
Thank you. And thank you so much for bringing in Gordon's comments and his story. I was really looking forward to hearing him on this panel today. But unfortunately, you know, we know he was called away. But I was so happy to hear his story with his son. And I want to sort of pose this question to us. And it's that question on top of the question we've just posed. What if, because it's all building on what you've all just said, what if all of us as a collective stop, let's say all minorities decided, you know what, we're going to work together. What sort of America do you think we will have as we face these challenges? What if, as a Black woman, instead of staying here and grumbled about what's happening in the Black community, I decided to embrace my Latinx sister and brother and my Asian brother and sister, or Asian and Pacific Islander sister and brothers that's struggling. And we collectively decided we were going to work on fixing this together and become one voice. What do you think would happen? Any thoughts?
I think that, you know, that is a key point in us getting to, and I don't want to say that it's a far-fetched ideal, because I think it is attainable. I think we've reached a point where diverse groups are starting to come together, but now there just needs to be more discussions about what does that look like. And again, it's about putting down our own separate agendas and thinking globally about what's best for humankind versus what's just best for African Americans, or what's just best for Asian Americans or Latino Americans. We all have our very unique needs, but on the grand scheme of things, there is a greater need. And, you know, again, it's just about building those relationships, because when you have relationships with others, you don't want them to suffer. You don't want them to hurt. You don't want them to lack for anything. And it's just getting to that place of decency where we're able to just come together in spite of our challenges and our differences.
Thank you. Noel, what are your thoughts about a diverse, of all axes of diversity coming together to address this need? What are your thoughts about that?
So, Dr. Saunders, just as you were posing that question to me, I saw Teresa go off mute. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to go to Teresa first, and then I'll follow.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see that. Sorry, Teresa. Go ahead, Teresa.
Because I wanted to add that, say, the world is going to shake, okay? As we unify, because the world will benefit from the moment to divide us. Because with that, it's how the world is keeping all separate. It benefits some people. But as soon as we come together, somehow, the world is going to shake. And they're going to align everything.
I pray that I'll live to see that in my lifetime. I remember when the pandemic started that people were saying that the people were finding or feeling earthquakes because the earth actually stopped. The movement was, you know, just because we're all going to and fro and we don't realize the things and the noise we make. Well, I hope, as you said, the earth will shake, and it will be for a good thing because it's unity. I think of heaven, where all of us are brothers and sisters, regardless of our color, skin, race, gender, creed, doesn't matter. And I think it's important we start thinking about how that works and how it will work here, could work here. So, or something similar, that we are in unity, we're in one accord, we love and respect each other as human beings. And then we're looking out for our brothers and sisters, and we're coming together collectively to address our challenges. I think we'll be unstoppable, honestly. And I agree with you. That's maybe why people are continuing to push the rivalry, because to come together collectively to do something like that, I am sure somebody's bottom line is going to be affected. And it's all about the money in some places. So thank you for that. Noel, you moved the mic over to Teresa. So what about your thoughts?
Well, I think that really most of my thoughts my sisters have expressed so well already, but I'll just underline them and say that I think one of the reasons that I've been so inspired in working with community health workers for so many years.
Anybody on there listening, do you know?
Because community health workers come from many diverse communities who have experienced marginalization and oppression. So when community health workers come together, they're coming together across all those lines of race and class and education and gender identity and many other axes of diversity, and they are unstoppable. And so I think that really serves as a model for what we can all do together as we come together.
Thank you, Noel. I agree with you totally. All right. Any final thoughts from anybody else on the panel? Lakeisha, any last thoughts about this? I see your smile and I can't hear you if you're saying anything. You're on mute.
I said no other comments on this one.
All right. Thank you. All righty. Well, let's move on. The next question looks at roles, and it says here, what might be the role of government, your organization, your family, your church, your school, etc., in advancing the UN goal for a more equitable and sustainable world? And so I'd like you to think about it again from all the different perspectives that you represent and reflect. And let's sort of talk a little bit about roles. And as you say, if you come from the government's perspective, for instance, what do you think they need to do? And from your family, because I think each of us and all of these different areas or domains can play a role in advancing the UN goal for a more equitable and sustainable world. And so I think I started with Teresa the last time, if my memory serves me right. So why don't we start with you, Noel, next, and you kick us off here?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Saunders. So I'm going to quote a few more people that I really admire. I think in terms of the role of government, I really appreciate the advice of the Vietnamese teacher and peace activist Thich Nhat Hanh, who was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize by Dr. King in the 1960s. And Thich Nhat Hanh writes, "We need to find better ways to communicate. If we can do this in our relationships, we can do it in our work environments, and even in our political environments. We have to transform our governments into mindful, compassionate places of deep listening and loving speech." And recently I heard another amazing leader, Dr. Marcela Núñez-Smith, speak at a conference of the National Association of Community Health Workers. And as well as having many leadership positions at Yale University, Dr. Núñez-Smith also serves as the chair of the Biden administration's Health Equity Task Force. And when she was speaking about the listening sessions that the administration has been holding with many groups, Dr. Núñez-Smith said, "We have to show up with humility." And I think that really reaffirms what Thich Nhat Hanh was saying about the importance of listening. And I think that if people in government really listen, I believe that they're going to be moved to take really concrete actions to redistribute power and resources in our society in a way that promotes equity and wholeness.
Thank you. Just awesome. I totally like that and love it. I think it's spot on. So we go from years ago to present with, and I did hear Marcella as well, and I think our comments were spot on, and I agree. We don't show up as experts, but we show up with humility, cultural humility, and of course competency to listen and to learn, because the community has the answer to all of its problems. I think we sometimes think differently when we are coming from the government or some subject matter experts, expertise organization. So thank you so much. LaQuisha, what are your thoughts about the roles? And you can take it from being a mom to your organization, your church. Have at it. Let's hear a little bit more about what you're thinking here.
Well, I think in all things that the role of our government, especially in different organizations, is to approach with a sense of diplomacy and grace, and not to treat one country or nation any less than you would want to be treated. That's the golden rule, right? And that, if I had to, and I always think when I watch the news that when there are war-torn countries, what happened in Afghanistan and different areas around the world, and people migrating over here from other areas of the world, if I had to relocate my entire life to another country because of war or natural disaster or any other type of crisis, I would want to be treated with diplomacy and grace. And I think it's incumbent of our government to, as the richest country in the world, to be able to treat those other nations with diplomacy and grace, because if we were in that circumstance, it would be so humbling. And we would want those other countries to adapt to our needs with their resources, just as we should adapt to their needs with our resources. And, again, it's about coming together and facing those common global health challenges and crises. It's not that we're just one island over here, that we need to be able to rely on science and facts. And this is what Gordon shared with me, that when we are able to rely on science and facts and realize that they're, again, we do it from a sense of humility and understanding that the different things that we see people need, we can be able to deliver. But it starts with listening and understanding.
Thank you, LaQuisha. Teresa, last but not least, let's hear from you about what you think some of the roles might be here. And of course, I want you to bring in the community health worker, natural leaders, and all of the groups you represent.
I think for me, one of the biggest roles of government and churches and school is to analyze their own behaviors, how they are promoting, supporting, or contributing to this systematic racism that exists now, or how they are, what they are doing, they are doing different to change. Also, maybe create a realistic reading or articles or research that talk about more the process, not the results. Sometimes people say, oh, we had so many people get vaccinated, numbers, but nobody talk about what the process, how many hours took to really talk with the person, with the community, and how can we work together, and how we were made up, well, to get to those numbers. So I would love to see that can be a different role, because that can create more humility to understanding the process, because there is an ego to say numbers is like, it's more proud, but the process can be more connection to ourselves and create more a stable relationship. Also, they have more access to good information like research. They can provide that to organizations, schools, even community leaders. They don't have to be the one to do these healing circles, but they can provide information to those leaders, to those organizations, to the churches, to bring that information to their communities in the best way. It's not had to be. And the faith community had a great opportunity to build this awareness and really dig on this situation. What are the causes? And are in a great position to find solutions. This is a great, and in community groups also, when they are really established, they had already a common ground. This is a great opportunity. And just maybe one of the biggest role of the government can be just give resources, financial resources to those groups to happen in a very cultural way. It's nothing that just come to the meeting or just sitting there. It's just all the food, all the childcare, all the things that you need to happen in order for the group to really develop themselves.
Thank you. Some really valid points, but I love the process, not the results. Because yes, we are driven by that result. It's like, okay, and I say it all the time, begin with the end in mind, but it's important for us between those dashes to figure out how it's working for people, what we need to fix. So it's an equitable process. We also need to work on how it is that we have in grace and the humility that you so clearly talked about as a group. I mean, wow, powerful words. Thank you so much, Teresa. And I love the fact that we need to analyze their own behaviors. Now, when was it that the government ever stopped to analyze its own behavior? That, I think, would be a great action step and a calling, because we analyze everything else. But who has ever analyzed the government's behavior and what it has meant to the populace? So very, very thought-provoking comments. I thank you for that. Before we move on, any final words from any of the three of you, or Pam or Famata, anybody else on that wants to share any other comments about roles? Famata, what do you think about your church? Is there a role for your church in something like this?
Yes, I believe that the church can step in, like Ms. Terry was talking about, definitely getting that relationship going with the community and seeing where people have concerns and what needs they have for us to be able to reach them that way. So the church do have a role to play, and we are the church, the people that come, we are the church. So yes.
I agree. Thank you so much, Famata. And I know you were here, you came here as a younger girl, but I can speak from experience living out of the country for nearly 30 years, that the church the US church is sort of different from churches in the West Indies or in Africa, because that approach is like almost a family. You go to church and you don't see somebody, you're knocking on their door before the day is over, you're checking on them. And so, yes. I mean, they might not have the money, but the support that's there. And I know, is that sort of similar in the Liberian church?
That is correct. It's more like family, because you rely on each other a lot for support, and sometimes it's financial, but sometimes it's just being there for that support. And you have graduations, you have things that happen through the years as the kids grow, and ceremonies come up, weddings, and everyone comes together to support. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Pam, any comments from you?
No, not at this time. I'm watching the chat.
All righty. All right, so a question that's dear to my heart. What do we need to bring fairness and equity into our world? And I'm going to throw in another few questions about kids, but let's talk about that. And I think Teresa, I think we went to you last time, or you finished the last comment. So let's start with you, LaQuisha. What do we need to bring fairness and equity into our world?
Wow. Well, I've thought a lot about this, and in my career, I do serve on a committee where we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what that looks like now in our world, and how we can better serve those in need who face various challenges. I am a parent of a special needs child, and I always think about his world and him having equity amongst his peers, and what that's going to look like for him when he transitions to adulthood. And again, in terms of fairness and equity, you know, we want to make sure that we, as the graphic shows, equal that playing field for the individuals, that, you know, even though they are all there to learn, that the standard of how they're able to learn amongst him and his peers and the other peers in his school, that there is a balance of how they're able to learn and navigate through their world. He is a child that lives and grows and thrives in normalcy. And even in his differences, we always promote normalcy for him, so that when he is in a space with other peers who are different from him, that, you know, he is able to navigate just as well as they are. And also, in terms of fairness, I believe that there is a shift happening in social justice where fairness is constantly being challenged. Is what was considered the status quo of being fair is being challenged as we know it. And I think it's a welcome challenge now, because it's forcing us to rethink what is truly equitable when we're dealing with other groups, and that, you know, someday that mentality of life isn't fair is going to go away. And there is going to be more of a mentality of life is about having accountability and equity. And I hope that the mind shift shifts, the mindset shifts to that, and that we're going to take hold of what is truly fair and equitable and just, you know, and justified in the systems around our world.
Thank you so much. Noel, what about you? What are your thoughts?
So when I think about what we need to bring fairness and equity into the world, I think about some of the topics that we've lifted up already. I think that we need humility, and we need a lot of honesty. I think we need to be able to fearlessly confront the past. And in the words of the renowned author and elder James Baldwin, he said, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced."
Yep.
So I think we need to fearlessly face the realities of racism, of colonialism, of imperialism, of all the ways in which inequity is enacted. And we need to acknowledge the pain and the trauma that these realities have caused. And going back to something that we talked about before, we need to acknowledge how greed and the desire for profit has produced the climate crisis and many other crises. I think we need to do a lot of truth telling, and we need to do a lot of taking of responsibility so that we can truly move on.
Thank you, Noel. Teresa, what are your thoughts on this question? I'd love to hear.
Yes, I agree with all what you say, but I believe that we need love, kindness, and compassion. Along with all that, we also need to practice or learning how to share and how to work collectively. create those space for people to practice, because it is in the lack of knowledge that we don't know how to work collectively. That's when we rely on the individualistic. But if we offer those opportunities, also recognizing that resources in the world are unjust, and people to get those traumatize other people, kill in great pain. So we had to recognize, and we had to honor how people feel about that, and work through that with compassion, kindness, and love.
Thank you, Teresa. As usual, spot on. Very reflective comments from all of you. Any additional thoughts from anybody else, or anybody else who wants to sort of weigh in here on the fairness and equity question? I have a second part of this that I'd like to pose. So let me hear you first, if you have any other additional thoughts on the question as is. Anything else? Oh, Laquisha, you see you going off mic, so go ahead.
I just think that when we can reach a point of equity, it is to understand that if someone else wins, that doesn't mean that we're losing.
Yeah.
If someone else wins, that doesn't mean that we're losing. And if we can get to that mindset, I believe we can, really see equity for what it needs to be.
Yep. Thank you so much. So as a part of Laquisha's comment, she mentioned her son. And so I'd like to sort of take this a little further, because the picture we have here was deliberate, right? As you can see, this poor kid in the wheelchair cannot even see over the screen. So he's not a part of the game. He's there, but he's not a part of that. That's what equality is. But we really want equity. So we build him a ramp and he's able to participate, etc. But the kids are our future. So I'd like to sort of throw in a question as we think about this point of fairness and equity in the world. We're going to try to do this for our children. So as you think about this, what would you say that children, and we will have videos from kids in a few minutes, you'll hear from their perspective. What do you think that we as adults need to help our kids recognize, and they then need to sort of embody to help us to get to this equitable world? So Laquisha, you kicked us off. You sort of talked a little bit about this. Tell me from your son's perspective what you have been grooming him or helping him to do, and then what do you think he'll need to do to keep this in front of him for the rest of his life, so we really could realize this in a generation or a lifetime. So I'd like to start with you, Laquisha.
Certainly. When we learned that our son was on the autism spectrum when he was a toddler, it was shared with me that if you face the diagnoses as that your child is broken, that your life will constantly be met with chaos, because you're going to always be thinking negatively about how can I fix my child. But if you meet the diagnoses as a challenge, you'll always think about opportunities that you can present so that your child can thrive. And so we've always approached his development and his growth from a mindset of this is a challenge, a welcome challenge for our family, and what opportunities can we provide to him to where he can thrive and grow on whatever scale he needs to. And in recognizing that children grow and learn differently, that embracing his differences has made the most for our family. Like, again, we embrace his differences, but we don't treat him as if he's different. And so because of that, the equity in our household is that there is an expectation that he is to do everything that, we do, and that we show him that is going to help him maintain and survive, and for him to develop the life skills that he that he needs and that he should have when he transitions to adulthood. And so again, I think equity is about having that expectation that while there are differences and while there are challenges, that you come from a place of thinking, what are the opportunities here? How can we make this better? How can we make life better? How can we make sure it is an equal playing field for all, and not that they're just there, but they're participating in life?
Thank you. So Noel, I'd like you to sort of tell me in your thoughts, what is it from a child's perspective? You might have nieces or nephews, and I know you have a large community as well. What do we need to do now as adults to help our kids feel like the picture on the left doesn't sit right with me? I want to see what I can do to get to the right-hand side of this. What are your thoughts?
Well, so I am just thinking that a lot of what we have talked about before, about the importance of listening and really respecting the wisdom that exists in communities, also applies to young people. And I think really listening to young people and acknowledging all the things that they know is really important. And I think just thinking about the movement to confront the climate crisis has in many ways really been led by young people. And they have been the models for those of us who are older to think about how to really confront this crisis. So I think that is not just true in terms of climate change, but it's true in many different ways. So I think that as all of us need and want to treat young people with respect and to listen to them with humility is a really important step.
Thank you, Noel. Great point. Teresa, what are your thoughts about this youth thinking or moving them from where we're on the left to the right? What do we need to give them now so they can be the movers and shakers of this and getting us a fairness and equity in the future?
I believe that first we need, as an adults, we need to invest and to prepare our children, because we need to create environments that kids can come along with the parents, but we need to invest financially, because everything costs money. And we believe that sometimes the school is going to cover everything that they needed. And that is not true, especially in the cultural context. But we need parents to have the resources to create those circles, to bring those kids to learn how to reconnect with the values with the parent, because that's one of the issues that we have with youth and parents, or kids and parents, that they had a cultural shock. They are fighting, but if we create those resources for investing in our children, to also discuss those issues and create those values, and also create jobs for kids, for youth, that they can be paid job, but learning, not just paying, not just go to McDonald's and do the hamburger, and then, but they can have a paid job when they are growing and learning, say how to do the recycling, how to prevent violence, how to interact with love, how to build a relationship with love and kindness. We need to pay for those services for our kids. If we don't invest that, we are losing the game for the future.
Thank you so much. Wow. Investing financially, and as parents, we need to really help them, and job for youth. And I've heard you say so many things. Wonderful. Any final thoughts? Yoko, thank you for joining us as we discuss fairness and equity. Any final thought from any of the panelists about this topic, about how we get our kids from thinking that equality is okay to moving towards equity and giving them that voice? Because I would beg to say, that unless we prepare them, we'll be here again discussing this in 50 years. But if we prepare them to be those change agents, that they're thinking equity in everything, then this picture on the left is going to be so bothersome to them, like they would take that lead like they did with climate change and start making those inroads so we can have a better future, and they and their children can have a better future. So one last call for any final comments or thoughts that anybody wants to share, and that includes Pam and Yoko and Famata, if you have thoughts.
Yes, please. As everyone's speaking, I'm thinking of the scripture that says to bring up a child in the way that he should grow, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And this is foundation for all of us. We were trained in certain ways, and that is how we're living now in our communities. So for the future, for our younger generation, is really looking to see what we know is missing in their world, and speaking with them to hear their voices and what they feel the need is for them, and then us cultivating and equipping them for their future, for the world they're gonna live in.
Thank you, Famata. Excellent points. Yoko, you on muted. Do you have a comment?
Yes, and sorry, I'm a little late, but I think you know why. Today is a work day for me, but I'm so glad I was able to catch at least part of this conversation. One thing I have observed in a lot of our youth is that they don't value who they are. And oftentimes they've already accepted the fact, either through family orientation, through just environmental exposures, or just the community that they live in, that they're supposed to not have anything. And if they do obtain anything of value, it has to be stolen. And I think that if we emphasize value of self in our youth, I think they'll start and really start allowing them to see the differences. What is equity and equality, and why am I even worthy of being part of this equal space? Why do I need to be part of that? I think then we can start developing our youth into being self-advocates, being community advocates, and actually taking a different approach to life, valuing education, valuing work, understanding what it means to invest in yourself and in your community. Those are the kinds of things that or some of the factors that I think will help our youth get into the mindset of thinking that they deserve equality, they deserve that equity experience. And so part of that is education.
Yep.
Some years ago, I remember having conversations with administrators of the school board and asking them if they would consider incorporating into the public school curriculum African history, so that our children will not perceive themselves as slaves and be ashamed of their ancestry. I believe if people start to understand who they are as Africans, understanding that African people are not the folk you see on TV in these rural, famished communities with no food, because oftentimes our youth, because of ignorance and lack of exposure, perceive themselves as such and do everything possible to avoid being perceived that way by others. And so that can get us oftentimes into the space of wishing we were quote unquote high yellow, or wishing we had, European hair or other features that are less African. And if we begin to teach our children what it means to be African, not so much African American, because that's a whole nother kind of experience, but African, then I believe our youth will begin to embrace self more. But as long as they're being taught by their family, by their community, who've been in poverty since they've been alive, what it means to be Black, it's going to keep us in a space of poverty as a community. And when we do get our hands on money, it's going to be spent in a very wasteful way. Not in a way that will invest and empower. And so I think that's where all that starts. It'll start with education. I pushed this. We had meetings about this, getting it into the curriculum because they're not going to get it anywhere else. And if they can get it at school, then they can go home and say, well, ma or grandma, in a lot of instances, well, this is what I learned in school. Now they can take that information back to their homes, back to their communities, and say, well, this is what I learned. And then the parents will begin to be more self-advocates, because now they can begin to value self. And hopefully that'll get us out of the space of being enslaved to the drugs, to the crime and other behaviors that are negative and associated with violence, et cetera, and get us into a healthier mental and social space. So I think that's where equality and equity begins. And that's—
Thank you, Yoko. Really great comments. And by the way, everybody, Yoko is calling in from the Black Women's Health Imperative in Richmond, Virginia. And as you can hear, very impassioned about fairness and equity. I mean, that is sort of the thrust of their work. And so you chimed in. I know you were thinking later than you thought you would be, but I mean, we would not have picked a better point for you to jump in, because as everybody have heard, you love this topic. You've been working to make a change in that space. I really thank you, Yoko, for joining and for your comments. Let's move on, unless there are other comments. I can't see your hand, so forgive me if I'm missing something. The next question asks, how do we recover better together to achieve an equitable and sustainable world? And so, LaQuisha, I'm going to start with you. In your opinion, as a mother, a woman, which is both, you can be a mother without being a woman. So a mother, a woman, a Toastmaster leader, a business owner, at your church, all of the different spheres of your diversity. Tell me, what do you think we need to recover better together to achieve a sustainable and equitable world?
Thank you. And listening to the comments about our children and what we should be teaching them, and even as adults, I think that we need to be able to learn how to be resilient. And we know that resilience is about being able to bounce back from difficult situations and challenges. And when we are able to develop more resilience and going through the things that we encounter individually and collectively, I think that we can move towards better recovery and unity. I think we can also recover by having forgiveness. And that's the main theme of our program today, because forgiveness is not just for the person that has offended us, but instead it is for us to understand that there is a level of peace in our spirit when we show forgiveness and when we move past pain and hurt, and that forgiveness and resilience surpasses that pain and hurt and disappointment, especially when we have a willingness to learn, and we have a desire to serve, and we have a heart for humankind. All of those things will help us to recover together when we're able to be resilient.
Thank you. You must have been listening to the conference on Saturday. But the interesting thing, and I say that to say that most of the things you talked about, the friendship, the the ability to connect and that partnership are all the things that builds resilience. So your comments are spot on. And but we did have a section of the conference that really, as you know, the theme was achieving forgiveness, recovery, and peace, resilience and peace in the pandemic era. And so we talked a lot about what resilience it was and how you can build that. Because it's not something that's gifted. It's something that you actually have to build like you build muscle so we can recover better together. So thank you for that. It's a wonderful comment. Noel, what are your thoughts about this question?
So in the course of our discussion today, I've quoted some really renowned elders like James Baldwin and Thich Nhat Hanh. But when I thought about this last question of what do we need to recover better together, it brought to mind for me the title of a book by a popular author, Melissa Gilbert, who wrote a book called Eat, Pray, and Love. And I think that to recover better together, to achieve an equitable and sustainable world, we need to eat and pray and love. And I think we also need to dance and play and sing, because I think we really need joy to counterbalance the sorrow.
Thank you. Love it. Very simple but unforgettable. Thanks, Noel. Teresa, let's hear from you.
Yes, we need to create a safe space to talk about the fear and the love, not just the fear, but the love that humans can experience. And how, so we need to build a collective healing. We need to create those spaces. Offer opportunities to talk about what happened during this pandemic. What are the lessons learned? What do we lose? And also what do we gain? And cultural celebrations, dancing, any rituals that we had in our culture, dancing, eating, celebrating. Celebrating is a joyful process of healing. And bring the energy back, and that also connect, do activities that connect our mind, our body, our spirit, and our emotion, like yoga, Nia, any type of movement that can create the healing process through the movement body.
Thank you. Wow. I love it. Thank you, guys. Any comments from anybody else that want to share about how we recover better together that you might want to add to the panelists? I heard some really interesting tidbits. Eat, love, pray, dance, play, sing. Opportunities to discuss what happened in the pandemic, collective healing, forgiveness. I mean, my God. Phenomenal. I mean, you have sort of encapsulated the essence of how we move forward as a world better together. But I want Pam, Famata, and Yoko, if you have any final comments before we move on to the next pieces. Here,
definitely to recover better, mind, body, soul. Are focuses we need to have in order to move forward. The healing process starts from within before we can even help our neighbors to heal. Yep. So when we look at self, we can reflect and see how better we can live and what we can do to grow and be able to help others around us. So reviving ourselves through mind, body, and soul is the best way we can start. Yeah.
Thank you, Famata. Great comments. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. I have here a few thoughts, and I might have been reading your thoughts, because I have here, let's fix all of this with an equity in all approach. And I heard all of this earlier today, so I'm going to just transition out of the panel by just sort of reading some of this. I think you've already said this. The golden rule is still golden, so let's follow it, right? I think we need to continue to facilitate meaningful community engagement in planning and decision and strengthening community capacity. I think we talked about that. I heard ending poverty and get all willing and able people to work. Teresa, you talked about that. Providing housing and transportation and other social needs. Stop separating that from health. Last night I talked about the fact that any country that's done health well actually integrate health and social services together, and it works. And then find ways to expand local, state, national, and international partnerships to leverage resources and build a coordinated effort. I think that's also a summary of some of the things I heard, and I didn't hear you before I made those summary comments. And then implement policies to bring equity and justice to all spheres of our lives. And then level the healthcare playing field. Teresa talked a lot about this, and provide equal service to everybody regardless of their race, gender, ethnicity, etc. And then communicate and act with urgency. I think if we could fix that and do all of this, in addition to all of what you've just clearly articulated on this panel today, I think our world will be in a better place next year, this time, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if we even follow the steps and the things that you have articulated here today. Thank you for your time. Again, I have a few takeaway messages. Forgiveness is universal, and there's a need for global forgiveness. I think LaQuisha and others will agree. Forgiveness brings unity. I think I heard you say that as well. It gives us freedom. And I really know this as a fact, this other one, it's a life well lived is the best revenge, right? You're being hurt, but you live a good life, and it's the best revenge to somebody who's hurt you. Keep equity in all decisions. And this could be a message for the government, but even our homes. If we're thinking about equity, then let's make sure it's shown in our checkbook and where we're putting our money. And the government should be also thinking in whether it's contract or hiring, we need to keep equity in all of that. And build with sustainability in mind. Think long-term instead of just for the moment. We're like in a microwave pressure cooker world, and we need everything now. But like Teresa said, we have to start building trust before we can build a partnership, and all of that takes time. So it's not a pressure cooker approach. And I think we need to join forces to make a difference. I really want to thank all of you we are coming to the end of our time together. And what I'd like to do now is to share with everybody, our youth ambassadors, a very quick video from them to share with you what they think we need to do to have an equitable world. So I'm hoping you can hear them. Let's see if I can get this to play. Let me hear if you hear this. Thumbs up. Are we hearing it now? Oh, this is down. Okay, let's start again. Anybody hear it? Oh, let's see.
Okay, what's your name? Press play, Megan. Oh, you got it.
I am from Coral.
Okay, what's your name?
My name is Luke. I am from Coral Springs, Florida. My hobbies are 1, playing sports, 2, playing video games, 3, go-kart racing, and 4, spending time with family.
And what do you think we need to have a more peaceful world?
1, we need to end racism and hate against people with accents and people who are immigrant. And B, end bullying, and C, give homeless people more homes.
Hello, my name is Zachariah. I live in London, UK. My hobbies are drawing. I like playing video games quite a lot, and I like watching YouTube. To make this world a more peaceful world, we should love Jesus, everybody, because Jesus has lots of concepts. And one of the concepts is try to understand and be very nice to your neighbours, and treat your neighbours how you want to be treated. And if we treat our neighbours quite nice, we'll have a better understanding of our neighbours, and there will hardly be any arguments. And if there are any arguments, there's not that much of a chance there being like an argument that's going to end up in war. And if we are living together and we have a great understanding of people, the world will probably have peace.
Wow. From the mouth of children, what did you think? From the mouth of children, the babies have said it. And so we know we need to actually listen to them. We've heard from you wonderful speakers, and now we've heard from our ambassadors. And I wanted to see if there's any questions and before we wrap up. Are there any questions or comments, some final words? No? Okay. Here's our contact information, our telephone number, and our website if you want to check out our work. I want to thank each and every one of you. Nawel, I know you got up early to join us, and Teresa, and LaQuisha, and Yoko, and Pam, and Famata for your wonderful song and bringing us into the throne of grace. So Pastor Williams, who had to leave. We could not have done this without you. I want to end with a closing song and want to ask you to help me and help each other to embody the things that we've just talked about and move out of here into changing our world so it becomes a more peaceful place. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your investment with us today. Give each other a round of applause. I think we did a good job. I'm hopeful that people will be listening online because I can't see it. But let's end with this song. And I want to thank you for all you do and continue to do to make this world a more peaceful place. So let's play this song. Oh, no, I don't want to stop screen sharing. Let's try again. Thank you, everybody. Have a good week. And issue of forgiveness. We got a minute.
Hola, hola. Estoy dejando esta canción para que a ver si la escuchan.
Thing on your mind today, it always goes to those who don't deserve. It's the opposite of how you feel when the pain they caused is just too real. Takes everything you have to say the word forgiveness. Forgiveness.
Okay.
It flies in the face of all your pride. It moves away the mad inside. It's always anger's own worst enemy. Even when the jury and the judge say you got a right to hold a grudge, it's the whisper in your ear saying set it free. Forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
It'll clear the bitterness away. It can even set a prisoner free. There is no end to what its power can do.
So let it go and be amazed by what you see through eyes of grace.
The prisoner that it really frees is you.
Yep.
Forgiveness. Forgiveness.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your investment in the ministry and in peace, because it's all about peace. And we really appreciate your help and support. Have a good rest of the week. I'll be in touch with each of every one of you. Have a good evening, everybody.
Have a blessed week.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Have a great week.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.